Hello and welcome to Dad Describes, where we talk about current events, politics, entertainment through the lens of being a dad. And we're going to get started today talking about The Mandalorian. Why is The Mandalorian so popular? Why is it that a man always ready for battle, dangerous, armored, beholden to a code, grabs a hold of us so much? To get into answering that, let me ask you another question. What is it that you really believe in? For example, in America, we are in a post-Christian era. Many of us know very little about faith or don't have a code that was taught to us, nothing being really handed down generation to generation. You might believe in God, you might not believe in God, you might be an atheist, you might be agnostic. What is it you believe in? Where does it come from? For many of us, we just come along doing what is right or what we think is right in our own eyes. But then we watch a movie like Iron Man, another Jon Favreau project, or The Mandalorian, and we're just kind of instantly sucked in. I think it's the code in this show. In The Mandalorian culture is centered around battle, struggle in life, and testing yourself. You hear them repeat this mantra in the show, "This is the way." And that deals with their faith and value system of the Mandalorian and explains or acknowledges his value set that drives his actions constantly. These stories kind of just cut through the crap with us. Let me give you an example. Let's think about the Mandalorian's characteristics for a minute. He's loyal, committed, brave, honest, even when it's not in his best interest to be honest. He's dangerous, responsible. These things are virtues. We used to talk and teach about virtues quite a bit in our culture, and you don't hear much about it anymore. Instead, we live in these self-deluded states of narcissism where we just kind of want to do what's right in our own eyes, and we don't really like to have a light examining our actions. But when we're faced with a show like The Mandalorian, it kind of cuts right through that and brings us back to the basics. And frankly, when most of us look at a character like the Mandalorian, that archetype is something that a lot of men and strong women aspire to be a little bit more like. So let's talk archetype a little bit. The Mandalorian he stands apart from the world around him. Again, it's his code that makes him different. The world around him is different than him, and he's okay with that. He doesn't care. He's got his code, he's got his moral compass, and it's what drives him. His armor sets him apart. When you stand alone with a code or a faith, people are not going to like it. Things that are different tend to be hated. The armor is a preparation for a fight. It's being ready to defend yourself, to take on, to stand firm with what's coming your way. And with a character like the Mandalorian, he is prepared to stand. The helmet he has is awesome. It's more like a visor. It's a lens and a filter on the universe around him. He can't take it off because it protects him. It protects what he takes in. The Bible calls the eyes the window to the soul, and it warns us about what we take in to our hearts. If you think about it, think about how much evil comes or starts within the heart, coming in from the eyes. Lust, greed, envy, jealousy. These are all things that are first experienced with our eyes and then translated into our being. The Mandalorian's helmet is a filter and a protection from the world, corrupting him, essentially. He looks out through the lens of his code, and his code protects him from the corruption getting within. Again, there's this archetype. Philosophically, the Mandalorian boils life down to its basics. In a dangerous world, as a man or a strong woman, who do you want to be when there is no one coming to save you? It comes down to, what do you believe? What is your lens? Are you just making up your morals and values as you go along? Do those values you make up for your life Do they shift over time? For example, 1 in 4 people in this country will bail on their marriages. So they start out with a committed relationship of I do, and as time passes, it comes down going from I do to I no longer. Another example, we raised a generation in the United States teaching them that you should be colorblind to people's races. Race shouldn't matter in how you treat people. Now we're being told that the teaching of colorblindness is actually hateful. As society evolves, which it does to the positive or negative, what we have today may be deemed wrong tomorrow. Do you want what it is that you believe in to be changed or influenced by these shifting sands of society's standards of what's right and wrong and the morality? Because it changes. This is why the archetype of the armored knight grabs us so. In some respects, it's almost the first story we find in the Bible in the book of Genesis. Hear me out on this. So in the beginning, Adam and Eve were put in the garden, and God said, hey, you can eat from any tree in here, but this one, don't eat this fruit. If you do, you'll die. So the devil possesses a snake, and he comes up to Eve, and he says, hey, you should eat this fruit. Eve's like, no, I can't eat that. God said I'll die. And the devil tempts her, and he twists the words. He says, hey, did he really say you would die? You won't die. You'll become more like God if you eat this fruit. And in becoming like God, that essentially means that you'll know the difference between good and evil. In other words, you will make your own versions of what's good and evil. And in their version, they found that the fruit was good to eat in their own eyes. Where the archetype grabs us is to say no to my inclinations, or no to what everybody else is doing and saying is right. But I'm going to follow the code because it is the way. By the way, did you know that the early Christians referred to Christianity as, not Christianity, but the way? There are some deeper truths that exists of right and wrong that transcend the shifting sands of time. These are objective truths. When Adam and Eve fail, they know it, and they try to hide it. They recognize that their nakedness and vulnerability, and so they attempt to fashion covering or clothes for themselves, protection, out of like fig leaves and sticks. God comes and confronts them with what they did that was wrong, breaking the law of what God told them to do. And he looks at their shame, their nakedness, and he gets rid of the leaves, and he kills some animals and provides them some leather and some fur to wear, actual real protection against the environment. You see, because now they have to contend with these consequences. They're going to have to do battle against nature. They're going to have to do battle against other people. They're going to have to do battle. They're going to have this conflict within their marriage. There's old archetypes at play here. It has deep roots in our heart. Societies may evolve or de-evolve, but in 3,000 years or more since the story of Adam and Eve were first penned, the human heart hasn't changed a bit. We're not more sophisticated than anybody that lived thousands of years ago. The Mandalorian confronts us with the code and with the faulty construct of what we have made our own lives and values to be, and makes us want to grab on to something larger than ourselves. But be careful what you grab onto. You could end up with some kind of philosophy principle like Karl Marx, the founder of Marxism, which killed millions of people. The most stunning archetype of this you're going to see in the New Testament in the Bible comes from Ephesians 6:10 to 18. This is going to blow your mind away. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day. That having done all this, to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as the shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. What a great image. And, it was actually the visage of a Roman soldier at the time. Season 2 of The Mandalorian is coming up, and I can't wait to see what the writers do with this archetype. Whether they end up trashing it with pressure from Hollywood, or whether they try to expand on it anymore. I hope this was thought-provoking too. I hope that these are things that matter to you. Values, virtue, the archetype. Stand up and be somebody for yourself, not for the world. Be set apart, really seek out truth. Figure these things out, consider virtue. Clearly, I look to the Bible for a lot of inspiration, and these things matter to me. And I think that they pull at the heart and at the soul. And as I said, the human heart has not changed. And these are things that as we get older, at the very core of us, we wrestle with. Thank you for watching Dad Describes. Feel free to hit that like button and hit subscribe if you would like to support my work. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about The Mandalorian in the comments below. And remember, nobody listens to Dad until you need somebody to stand firm.